if you are not informed, then you are not going to be able to start. So here I am giving you a little push, because once you see the gap, you can either increase your revenue, you can decrease your expenses, or you can stabilize what you already have.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. I want to start today's episode a little differently. This topic has been coming up a lot lately inside Designer's Room, in conversations with designers, even just in my DMs, and not in like a panic way or a stressed way, but in a quiet kind of like underlying way. And I'm starting to see a pattern. And it's things like designers saying, I think I'm going to be okay, but I don't really know. Or how do I know if, I need to hire right now? Should I hold off? There's uncertainty in the air. And I don't know if you guys are feeling it. It's this, well, things were slow and they're starting to pick up, but I don't know if I can count on it. Do you know what I'm talking about? And what I'm noticing is that it has nothing to do with these designers not being talented, because a lot of these designers who are messaging me or in Designer's Room are very talented. It's not that they're not working hard. Come on, we're all freaking hard workers, so it's not lack of effort. But it might just be a little bit of a lack of confidence and looking for some clarity. And so that's what I want to give you today. Because if you've been listening for a while, you might actually remember. You have to have been listening for a really long while to remember this. But a while back, I did a series called Know Your Numbers. And I recorded it with a guest who was my then operations manager, Marilee Wright. Marilee had previously been a client of mine, and then she just started sort of helping me with business stuff. And then during the pandemic, she had sort of semi-retired and was, I think, kind of bored. And so I was like, can you come help me? And so I hired her, and she helped me for a little bit over a year. It was amazing. And so during that time, we recorded some podcast episodes. We will link that in the show notes. That's episode 108. But that series really breaks down the fundamentals of money, because the idea is like, what I'm hearing from these designers and what my experience has been is we're worried about where the next paycheck's coming from. We're worried if we invest in hiring someone today, are we going to need to let them go in 3 months when this project ends, for example? And so that episode really does break down things like expenses, your run rate, and all of the pieces. So today I want to build on that. And I want to bring it into how you actually use the numbers to make decisions in your business right now, because we are heading into a time of year when things can shift, right? It is springtime, summer's coming. This is when projects potentially could slow down, or inquiries could slow down as people start to go on vacation. And even if you are working on a project right now, decisions could get delayed. And this is usually the point when uncertainty starts to creep in. Not because anything is wrong, but because there's no clear visibility into what's coming ahead. So instead of guessing or waiting to see how things play out, I want to walk you through something that's really simple, but incredibly grounding. This is your 6-month runway. What it actually takes to run your business, what you need to sustain it, and how to look ahead with a bit more confidence. It's not about spreadsheets, although I highly recommend you use one, but it's also not about becoming like a mathematician or a major numbers person overnight. You guys know numbers are not my favorite thing. That is my way of just trying to be kind to myself. I used to say like, I'm not good at math, but I realize the more you say things like that out loud, they become your truth. And so I am still learning. But what I have learned is it's not about the math. It's about understanding your business in a way that helps you make better decisions. Because when you have clarity on the money and the finance, everything is going to feel a little bit easier, a little bit lighter. Let's start with the reality. what it actually takes to run a design business, because it is more than you think. And there are really 4 buckets that I want you to consider. So first, your fixed costs. These are the non-negotiables, right? Things like paying yourself, your software, your rent if you have a studio. And yes, I said paying yourself. That should be considered non-negotiable. That should be fixed. Could be things like internet, anything that is a fixed cost. These are the expenses that show up usually every month. They could be annual, like your project management software. But whether you have 1 project or 10, you are paying this amount. That is very important to know. So that's 1. Second is your variable costs. So variable costs are things that fluctuate depending on how busy you are, right? Depending on the season you're in, depending on the type of projects you're working on. This could be freelancers that you hire. It could be any team member who comes and goes. It could be travel, like going to High Point. It could be taking a course, signing up for designer's room, right? It could be anything that could fluctuate depending on your needs. These feel more flexible. And so they feel like they don't affect your bottom line, but they can add up really quickly. And then third, this is the one that designers don't account for. These are your invisible costs. This is your time. This is the hours that you're not billing or you're discounting, the back and forth with clients, right? The revisions that you don't charge for, the administration, the design and decision fatigue. And all of that has a cost, albeit maybe not exactly financial. And so even if it's not showing up as a line item on a spreadsheet, I want you to consider this as the 3rd bucket. And then the 4th bucket is your future costs. So the things that you want to say yes to, or you're maybe about to say yes to. So like hiring somebody new, scaling and maybe moving into a studio space, taking on so you can take on bigger projects, maybe upgrading your systems, getting a new computer system, maybe getting office furniture, that type of things, or future costs that don't need to happen right now, but you'd like to happen, right? And these maybe aren't hitting your bank account just yet, but they are coming. So when you say, I want to be clear, when you say I feel busy, it doesn't necessarily mean you're profitable or more profitable. Can we all agree that just the busier we are, it doesn't mean we're making more money? And so even if we feel like we're doing well, meaning we've got great projects and clients, it doesn't mean also that the business is stable and that you've got projects lined up that are going to keep sustaining you, right? And this is where we can shift from guessing to knowing. So I want to talk about how this can help you and build out that 6-month runway. So this is where things are going to get tangible. So step 1, you need to know your monthly run rate. So what does it cost to run your business every single month? I want you to look at all of those buckets that I talked about. What is it costing you every month to run your business? Not roughly and not what you think it might be based on back of the napkin math or in your head. This is where a spreadsheet will be your best friend. I highly recommend it so that you're not having to recalculate everything on a calculator, but it also should include paying yourself, please. If you're not paying yourself consistently, we need to change that because you are not an afterthought. This business exists to sustain you. In fact, it exists to actually help you thrive. And so you are an expense and you are a necessary one. Please, please, please consider that. That is going to factor into how much it costs to run your business every month. What does it cost to keep your doors open? In other words. And then step 2 is super simple. But step 1, it sounds simple, but it might feel overwhelming. And I get it. That is totally normal. That was me when I sat down to actually look at what things cost. And I can tell you, I had a little bit of a heart attack the first time I looked at it. I was like, I'm sorry, what? How much do I need every month? What the what? Step 2 is simple. You take that number and you multiply it by 6. That's it. That is your 6-month runway. So if it costs you $8,000 a month to run your business, you need $48,000 to operate for 6 months. If it's a $15,000 month, now we're looking at $90,000 for 6 months. That's the number most people avoid. But it's also the number that's going to give you power. And then step 3, I'm going to say, is to compare that to your reality. So what do you actually have in the bank? Do you have 6 months cash? We call it cash, even though it's not physical on hand, to run your business if shit hits the fan. what is in your business account right now or your combined business accounts? What revenue maybe is already secured, meaning what contracts do you have signed? Not that they said that they're interested, but someone who's actually like signed your contract, ready to go at a certain date. What money has been collected for future projects? Not what you're hoping for, what's actually coming and what's real. And then step 4 is to identify the gap, which is super simple. It's like, this is the moment where you either go, like I did, holy F, I'm screwed. Something needs to change. Or you might say, all right, I'm actually doing pretty well. I'm not there yet, but I'm almost there. Or you might even say, whoa, I've got way more than 6 months in my bank, Rebecca. And neither is bad because this is a starting point. So if you are not informed, then you are not going to be able to start. So here I am giving you a little push, because once you see the gap, you can either increase your revenue, you can decrease your expenses, or you can stabilize what you already have. And most of the time, it's a combination of all three. There's always a little bit of room to increase your revenue. There's always a little bit of room to decrease some of those expenses. And you can often find ways to stabilize what you're doing. And I want to talk about one more thing, though, that doesn't get discussed enough. And this is the financial side, which is the rainy day fund, because this is where stability really comes from. And the rainy day fund, it's not leftover money. It's not if I have extra, it's intentional. It's what allows you to make decisions from a place of confidence instead of fear. It's what allows you to say no to the wrong project, right? So many of you are like, oh, I would like to filter out projects, but gosh, I don't want to be in a situation where I don't have any money coming in, right? And that might feel far away, and that's okay. You're not going to build it overnight, but you're going to build it by starting to be aware. I'm going to share honestly that there were times in my business where I felt so busy and relatively successful, but behind the scenes, like inside my bank account, things were not tight. I was struggling to pay my taxes, and I was hiring because I was so overwhelmed, but I didn't really pay attention to whether I could afford that hire or long-term what that would mean. I was saying yes to projects because I didn't want a gap. I didn't want to not have revenue coming in. So I was saying yes to the wrong projects. But if I had had more of a runway and more clarity early on, I would have made different choices and better decisions. Eventually, I figured it out and I started to build a runway to a point where when we got to the pandemic and everything shut down, I had 6-month runway in my bank account. I was able to keep my team on as projects were put on hold. But that took time. That took a few years to get to that place. And so I want to encourage you to start looking at the numbers. Please include yourself in your monthly expenses and always separate known revenue from potential dreamy revenue. Like, well, I might get that project, so let's account for $30,000. No, until it is signed and money is coming in, it does not count. And I want to encourage you to think 6 months ahead. At the end of the day, this is not about restricting your business. It's about giving it some structure and making you feel more empowered as a CEO, as a business owner, because I don't want this to feel like a roller coaster for you. And I know so many designers feel the feast and famine, the roller coaster. You're constantly reacting. And so you will build something if you're constantly reacting that is shaky, that feels unsteady, instead of something that feels aligned and scalable to build the life that you want. This is the type of work that we do inside Designer's Room. We look at your numbers. We share our spreadsheets. We help you build in predictability into your business. We help you make decisions with confidence. We'll give you feedback on who you need to hire right now, when, why, how much, what everyone else is doing, because you don't need to kind of get through this blindly without support. All right, so that's what I have for you today. I hope I give you a little kick in the butt to look at your numbers and map out your 6-month runway. What do you need in your current state to sustain you for 6 months? And if this episode hit for you, I'd love for you to share it. Please share it with a friend, someone who needs that extra little nudge to dive into the numbers and step into that CEO role. And of course, if you are inside our Designers Room community, let me know on our Slack channel if this was impactful and where you want to take it from here. All right, I will see you soon.